star power. Star power. Thank you. Let's start with you, Gail. That's okay with you. I'm sorry, Dr. Myers. I apologize. What's your goal, overall goal, with this film? What do you want our audiences to take away from watching this film? Oh, and I'm sorry. Let me.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's an honor to be here with you. You know, I had to share these stories. To see Mrs. Isafine, to see Aunt Rose, Ephraim Lewis, and all these narratives. For most of us, we didn't know this stuff existed. You know, the continuity basically coming out of the enslavement period after the Civil War. You know, a lot of folks don't know what black families endured. And the fact we look at these statistics, 1910, these amazing numbers, almost 1 million black farmers. Who were those people? And so I wanted this story to really give some faces and some names to those numbers, so you get to know that Barefoot Farmer, his family had up to 3,500 acres. Mr. Ephraim Lewis, it's not in this film because the tape got degraded, but basically their family had 3,000 acres. So that's how black families accumulated almost 16 million acres, but they lost it. So Alvin's story talks about the loss of land. And so I really wanted folks to see this story, you know, feel the pain and see the love that people took to surviving times that would just be, for a lot of us, we couldn't deal with it. So that's really it. And now that the film is finished, you know, the idea of screening all over the country is to really, you know, engage communities around these missing narratives and look at where do we go from here, you know. So that was really the goal, and just to show some love and honor and respect for our ancestors. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, that's beautiful, and I feel like when we know better, we do better.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So for the people that are watching and receiving it, the more information that you have, you can either carry on that tradition, or you can be the change.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely, thank you for that, Mr. Scott. Question for you. As a black farmer, how does your experience relate to the stories in this film?
Well, to be honest with you, that film is my story.
Mm.
You know, I remember when I first met Gail, she came to Fresno, we had a meeting. You know, and she said she wanted to do something for the black farmers, you know, help. Well, I told her, I said, one thing too is that we need to be able to tell our own story. You know, and she looked at me and laughed. She said, I'm already doing a documentary. I'm already collecting the data for it. You know, and what is 10 years later, here it is. You know, and I'm here to see it. But I can tell you what you saw in that picture, I lived it. Like it says that my grandfather was a sharecropper. My daddy sharecropped with me, and I was on the tail end of it. And what you saw is true, and there's a lot of stories that you need to be told also. That I remember when we got off of sharecropping, you know, at the age of 3, my mother taught me how to read and write using the King James Version of the Bible. My daddy taught me how to count. And she gave me a tablet, and I used to crawl on our bed, and I learned myself my multiplication. By the age of 4, I could go up to 13. Well, that helped out too, because at 5 years of age, my grandfather took in the last wagon load of cotton. We had to go. I mean, we lived so far in the country, they call it the bottom. But by the time we got to town, it seemed like it took us a whole day. You know, we went by wagon, you know. A lot of you guys don't know what that is, so, you know, wagon pulled by animals, you know, matter of fact, mules or horses. But we got there, and he took the wagon load of cotton, and he ran across a scale. And the guy told him, he says, Amos, my grandfather's name Amos, he said, Amos, he said, you did pretty good this year. You know, and he gave it to, because my grandfather took other stuff up. He said, here's your total for the year. He gave it to my grandfather, and my grandfather gave it to me, and I noticed a number. You know, it was a pretty big number, you know, so he had to take that note to what they call a county store, because this was my grandfather had a tab. So he takes it in there, and the man takes the book down. And me, I was kind of nosy too, because, you know, I like books. We didn't have books, but, you know, I was interested in books. So I happened to look where he had my father's name. And he took the piece of paper and he put the figures next to my grandfather. My grandfather's figure was bigger than what he had in the book. He turned around, he says, Amos, he said, you almost got off the book. He said, if you have another good year like this, he said, you'll be clear. And I looked at my grandfather and I says, no, grandfather, I said, he owes you some money. I said, because if you take this figure and you subtract what you owe, I said, he owes you some money. I think it was something like $75, which was a lot of money. And my grandfather, he came over, and I realized too, my grandfather couldn't read. You know, he could do, you know, basic, you know, counting. So he asked me to call his book. He said, Book, is that correct? I said, yeah, Grandpa. He said, yes. And I took the pencil and I did the subtraction. I said, oh, you $75. And he looked at the man, and the man says, oh, he said, I forgot. I didn't complete the contraction. He said, Amos, yeah, you got money coming. Then he says, would you like to lead us on the book? You know, so you have something to operate a year? And my grandfather said, no. He said, I need the money now, because at that time it was 3 sharecroppers. It was my daddy, my grandfather, and I had an uncle. So that meant each one had $25 coming. Well, the man gave the money. he looked at grandma, he said, that's a smart little boy there, you know.
that was a good catch.
You see, I had a word, I had something against the word boy. I found that if you call somebody a boy, you were being disrespectful. So I told him, man, I said, don't call me a boy. I said, my name is Will Jr., you know. So we walked out there, and my grandfather stopped at another store. And he kept looking at me. He said, Bub, he said, you know that stuff? I said, yeah, Grandpa, I know that. So he goes to this store, and back in those days, if some of you could know this, is that going to town, a treat was to get some of that stick bologna, and you get them, they call it saltine crackers now, and you get red soda water. I mean, you didn't have it then, you know. So my grandfather, he bought that, he said, Bub, you need something else. And I walked down there, and the first time I seen marshmallows. And I'm saying, yeah, Grandpa, I said, I'd like to try those. So I got a little small bag. He said, no. He says, get that big bag. So I helped him. So on the way back, I ate the bologna, the crackers, and the soda water. Then I started eating no marshmallows, and I got sick. And by the time we got home, you know, it was dark. But that's how, 2 weeks later, we got off a sharecropping. 1945, I had an uncle, he had fought, he was in the army, he came from Germany, he had fought in the Battle of the Bulge. As you know, that was one of the bloodiest battles of the war. But he came back, and he stayed exactly two weeks. He said, I'm going to California. Well, you know, when you talk about California, when I hear you talk about California, it's a gold state, right? The way they presented to me is that California had streets made of gold. Everybody had a money tree. You know, and so later, 2 years later, my daddy went and he sent money back to pick us. So when we caught the Santa Fe, we caught at midnight, had to leave at midnight. Because if you know about sharecropping, sharecropping is another form of slavery. Initially, you belong to a man. And after that, sharecropping, you belong to the man's land. If you had a tab, you couldn't leave. The sheriff and the authority made sure you didn't leave. You know, so we left at midnight just in case. We arrived in California and we came down, the Saturday came down, I think it was in Bakersfield. We came down and I looked out and I started laughing. Cotton had beat me to California. You know? We came in August and I can tell you, I didn't even get a chance to breathe. We was in the grape field. And I found out where raisins come from. You know, so, but anyway, that's where we got into it. But I got a lot more to say too. But I guess it's the time I need to pass it on. But
No, this is fun. I mean, this is great information for everyone, and I would like for this to be a discussion. I would like for you to share your story and just to talk to us. So it's totally fine if you want to continue or.
I need to get it off my chest, I guess.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Get it off your chest.
But also, like I said, is that we did agriculture because that was how we survived. As a matter of fact, in the grapes, I was very adept at it. I mean, I could cut 350 trays of grapes a day, and that was some good money. But here's the thing, too, is that it was kind of funny, too, and I'm glad I kind of bit my tongue, is that when we got off the Santa Fe train, my uncle and my dad came and got us, and I walked outside. And see, where I come back in Oklahoma is that we had dirt roads and gravel roads. So when they came out, I asked my uncle, I said, what's that? Pointing toward the road, because I'm expecting to see gold. Where's the gold? You know, he told me, he said, that's asphalt. You know, he said, you see that over there? He said, that's concrete, where people walk. Cars drive on this. And he laughed. And I bit my tongue because I was going to ask him how many trees that he had with dollar bills on them. But he didn't. But like I said, is that, and also too, as I found out too, is that we was actually poor. Because see, I'm from a family of 15. I'm the oldest. We come to California, and California showed me that we were poor. You know, because I can tell you that there was a time when my father got sick. I walked to the kitchen, there was nothing in the cupboard. But my mother had a sack of flour there. And I would come through there many times to see what she was going to do, because my mother did miracles. Like I said, we all say our mothers are the best cooks. And that's true.
Yes, indeed.
But I came back and I saw 5 onions on the table. And I'm wondering, what are we going to have? Then at 5:30, it was about 5:35, she calls in, you guys come and get your dinner. Wash up. We came in, I looked in the kitchen, and those biscuits.
Oh.
I saw a mound of biscuits. I saw a big skillet full of gravy. And I'm gonna tell you something. That's heaven on earth. I mean, I ate. She did it, you know, but that's how we survived. But you know, just kind of take you back too, is that so that you know, is that when they brought my ancestors over here, they had stripped them of everything for 3 things. There was the color of their skin, there was a spirit that God placed inside of them, and a hope for a better day. In a sense, we're still hoping for a better day.
Absolutely.
But I live long enough that I can see some hope that is coming to fruition. And that's because of the people in this room.
Yes,
You know, and I appreciate that. But also I'd like to say this too, is that when you call a person a name and you define it, then you can do whatever you want to that person. It's like if I call you a savage, I can do savage things to you. They have a term now that I don't like, and you guys may pass it on, is that term socially disadvantaged. To me, that's an insult. I'm not socially disadvantaged. I'm underserved.
Right.
You need to print that as such. You know, I'm underserved. And another thing too is that I don't want no handout.
Right.
I want a hand up. If you give me a handout, when you walk away, I'm still down.
Right.
But if you give me a hand up, when I stand on my feet, I can do something for myself. And I may be able to help you out someday too. You know, so that's where we're at now, is that I think we're doing and I think Dr. Myers said it too back in that day. I thought it was kind of interesting. She said, we got to circle back.
Yes.
You know, and that's what we're doing now. As a matter of fact, They are doing it, but they come on a new, you have to watch names. This regenerative farming, all it is what we did back in the day.
Right. Absolutely.
We work in I guess in tune with the nation. You know, we took care of the land. We didn't use all that DG and stuff like that. And one of us, in fact, we didn't have the money, right? But we did. We have a duty to do because man is supposed to take care of Mother Earth. If we do that, she'll take care of us.
Yes.
And I can tell you too is that like we come to California. One thing I realized about California is that besides the gold and stuff like that, California is rich. And this richness comes from the diversity of people.
Right.
When I was in the classroom, is that it kind of baffled my mind because I sat in the classroom in Oklahoma, there was 3 cultures. There was black, white, and Indian. I come to California, I look around, and I see these people from everywhere.
It's a melting pot.
That's right. See, I say, you know, some of these people I only saw in my word geography book, you know, but here they are. We're all together. You know, and like I said, my life too is that some of my classmates were some of the best people I know. And that's what we are today, is that we are diverse. As a matter of fact, when you talk about farming, we have, with our diversity, we have about 400 to 500 different crops that's available to us. That means that we're rich because, as they say, you're what you eat. If you want to be healthy, eat healthy.
That's 100%.
And I contend this is that if you eat healthy, you be healthy, you ought to act healthy.
Come on now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But see, and that's, and I'm gonna get out this. What I'm saying is that where we are now is that the African American Farm, we formed this in 1997. We made privy to the lawsuit that the black farmers back south. They made California, blacks in California privy to it. We got the money, got some money. Some people got money, some didn't. But what we did to it, that brought up, let us know that we still have a job as African American Farm. We got a job to do. We played an initial part. We helped build this country, started to make it the most vast country in the world. But it's not over. We still have a role to play, and that's in food. Today I had lunch. It was most people's thing there. Everybody there was at peace. Right. And I think that we need to do it. Now, the COVID has given each one of us time to rethink some things.
Right.
Okay, you had time to rethink now, and we know that there's some things that we're missed because some things are brought out. The truth is brought out.
Right.
It's like it says that they brought out they came out with the Black Farmers Justice Act, and it revealed a lot of things to us. But also it told us too is that America is not only divided, but we're in a position where we need to do something now. And it's going to take all of us to bring this stuff together.
Yes,
and what we're doing now is that with the African American farmers in California, is that we're working with some of the young kids. We have charter schools that's coming, and a lot of this is like I said, this is where I need to bring you guys back in. But Gail and Elaine is the one that's been advocating for the black farmers. Now guess what? This university that I was just read down one other service, I was down the road from was Stanford University. Diane called up through them, and she says, okay, there's an opportunity. And that's what we've been looking for, an opportunity.
Yes, indeed.
Because like I say, it's enough to grow stuff, and you be able to sell it on the corner to the farmers market, stuff like that. But we need to be into the mainstream of life because that's where all the people are.
Man.
Not only in the education system, but in the military, in prison too. And I tell you this is that I think the next calamity that we have will be in regards to food.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that if a man can't eat, he becomes an animal. He's going to satisfy that. He's going to do whatever it takes to get that food.
Absolutely.
And that's what I tell. I'm going to put it down. And I want to tell Elaine and Gail is that on the second day, if I come to you and say I'm hungry, and I tell Terry, now that I know Terry, I feel a little bit good. I say, if I come to you on the second day and tell you I'm hungry, you better feed me. Because on that third day, look out.
Oh my God. A lot of history, a lot of wisdom. I hope all the students in here are soaking up a lot of the things being said, because the students, the young people in this room, you are the future, and I'm really happy to see a lot of the students here to be able to carry on that tradition, in a sense, to be able to make change and continue to be a part of change. So thank you. I appreciate you for sharing that, and I feel like everyone needed to hear all of that. So yeah, that's much appreciated. Absolutely. Like I said, I want it to be a discussion, so I want to give you space to speak freely. Diane, in your role as leading vendor management and supplier relations for R&DE, tell us about how you and the R&DE team here at Stanford work with farms to grow. What is the significance of the Black Farmers Purchasing Program?
So, I'm honored to be here with Dr. Myers and Mr. Will Scott. Their practices are really extraordinary, and way they were doing regenerative farming from the beginning. Their farming practices are widely based on George Washington Carver's practices, and the way they treat their land, their spiritual connection to the land, and the variety of crops that they have are extensive. And I actually think we need you guys more than ever. So, a couple of years ago in summer of 2020, when the world went sideways, and after the George Floyd murder, we asked ourselves, are we buying from any Black producers of any kind of food or services or supplies? And it left us kind of scratching our heads and trying to really understand.
Let's be honest.
Yeah. And that had us take a few steps back to really just kind of understand, well, why not, right? And learning that why not took some time to really understand, what are the why nots. I go to a lot of trade shows and food shows, and I don't see a lot of Black producers, right? So that, led down a discovery of understanding what happened with Black farmers in the United States, right? And considering Stanford's food values and our purchasing values centered around sustainability and equity, that's led by Dr. Everett, who creates this culture of diversity for us and empowers us to really kind of take a deep dive and understand what we're doing with our purchasing on every level, our menuing, our purchasing, our collaborations, our relationships that we have. I thought the greatest impact we might have is tackle this problem of the demise of Black farmers, especially in the state of California. We're one of the biggest ag producers in the United States. And, how could we move that needle of 1.3% of farmers in the United States are Black, and to drop that down from almost 900,000 a year ago or 100 years ago to less than 45,000 now is really despicable.
If I could just ask another question.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And like I was telling you guys, Diane has been boots on the ground, hands on, every day, off days. I mean, yes. Important question here. This is, there's a lot of farmers here, and this is all fantastic. This is a huge blessing, and we love it. Tell me this: where do you hope to take this program for the future? Because it's great right now, but how does this look in 10 years? How does this look in 20 years? How does this look for the next generation?
So the immediate, I think, the time is now. Mr. Scott had mentioned the time is now, right? So, and waiting on other large institutions, USDA or, big organizations, the university has the power to kind of act now, right? Mm-hmm. And so what we've done is, and I'll tell you, because I think it's more immediate, it's gonna happen within this year, it's starting, is, built a relationship with our local farmers, right, through Farms to Grow Network, and with their director, Elaine Smith, who's here in the front row. We've developed a really good, tight working relationship, built on trust and really understanding what are the historical barriers, where are the hurdles, and just very candid, very difficult conversations in the past 2 years, and documenting that so I can understand, if black farmers want to get into wholesale markets, why aren't they there? So we kind of uncovered that and broke out the distribution norms and talked to a distributor to work with black farmers and develop an outline if they want. They may not want to. They may want to be, say, community level, which is very important. Right. But if they want to get into wholesale markets, outlining those requirements and building a transparent, purchasing understanding, right? Because
like
I was
Mr.
told
Scott.
many times, Mr. Scott had said
Talking
that
about an opportunity.
they get undercut, right? So if I can build a transparent transaction where everybody knows what those prices are, and how the distribution model works and how the pricing works, that might be helpful. So we did develop our those outlines and have onboarded our first farmer,
Yes.
or Donald Sherman, who's also
Yes.
here.
Donald Sherman is here. Yes, sir.
I hope he is the one of many to follow, right?
Yes, absolutely, that's the goal.
By connecting to a distributor, that opens up the supply chain, right? Not just to Stanford, to these large institutional buyers that, but hopefully, as farms grow and as farmers onboard, that distribution network is now open, right?
Yes.
And then, the ultimate goal is to move into large institutional buyers for these farmers if indeed that's the route they want to go. So a lot of, influencing my networks of
Definitely.
International Fresh Produce Association, our distribution networks, the International Food Service Manufacturers Association, the USDA, the Natural Resource Conservation Service of the USDA, and having conversations with them of enlightening these large organizations about what's happened and what Stanford's doing. So building that network with Farms to Grow, and hoped to broaden it through institutional purchasing. And then we're developing a toolkit that is in 2023. It's on the docket for 2023 to educate a large institutional buyer and a farmer how to find each other, how to work with each other, and how to get into wholesale markets.
Beautiful.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Thank you, guys. We were talking earlier, and you said you were at a conference and there was a speaker getting off the stage, a heavy hitter, and you ran over and got his attention as soon as that's the kind of passion that I'm talking about. That's the kind of genuine passion and an advocate for it, and that's much needed.
That was Secretary Vilsack of the United States.
I wanted to let her say it.
Hold it over to tell him,
I saw the picture. There's a picture of them together, and he's like, "Who are you?" And she's like, "I need to talk to you."
And the USDA just tripled down $3 billion for the Climate Smart Solutions Act that is finally pumping in funding that is going to get to these diverse farmers that we desperately need. I really believe that.
Definitely.
Gotta strike while you can.
Yes. It's the saying, strike while the iron is hot.
Yes.
And not only strike while it's hot, but continue to strike.
Yeah.
Keep striking. Definitely. Thank you, Diane. Belinda, based on your experience as a professor, can you shed some light on how this overall issue of systematic racism towards black farmers fits within the larger context of environmental justice? I think there's a bigger picture to this.
That's a huge question.
No pressure.
I know.
Well, I think Dr. Myers really lays it out really well in the documentary. Let's see, environmental justice. I do a lot of work with food justice, and as the documentary shows, there's a whole legacy of who ends up being the people growing the food, who ends up being the people that make money off of growing the food, and those are two very different kinds of people. The United States agriculture, whose method of growing food has been sort of outsourced and spread throughout the world, really, through Green Revolution and other elements like this in the 50s, 60s, is all built on the need for cheap labor in order to make food prices go down. It's the only way it's going to work, only way to make the amount of food that's out there that's available, doable and sellable for folks. And how do you do that? You enforce, you take free labor. You get slaves, you get native folks who were here in the U.S. before they brought over black folks from Africa. And you make labor as cheap as possible. And then you bring in folks from Mexico and Latin America in the Bracero program to have as cheap labor as possible to keep the price of food down. We don't like to hear it in the United States, but we pay the least for our food compared to other people in the world. Most people pay much more for their food than we do here. And it's a resource that we just do not take, we take for granted entirely. So these legacies of exploitation and slavery and genocide and oppression are built in and baked into our food system. It's really an awful legacy. And I love being here because we are folks trying to bring this to light and to change that narrative and to take ownership and power over what we are doing with our food, trying to make it beautiful, trying to make it healthy, trying to make it good for us and reconnect to it on an ancestral kind of level, as Yolanda mentioned as well. So, legacy of injustice within our food system, trying to move the needle towards something else, something to make food beautiful again, instead of just eating packaged food that's based on soy and wheat and maize and these high commodity crops. We need to bring it back to the vegetables and to the diversity that's out there. There's some really gnarly statistics about how much diversity has been lost, going back to Will's point here. We eat something like, 15 crops nowadays, when there are hundreds, thousands of things that we should and could be eating. And in a climate sort of way, we need to be eating because we aren't going to be able to rely on, the commodity crops that we've grown to become reliant on. So that's a huge, huge broad swath of some answers, I guess, to this.
Yeah, definitely. There's, and there's so much more that can be added on to that. Earlier today, we were having a discussion, and Mr. Scott was talking about how eating in season, and about how we can nourish ourselves and prevent illnesses and all of these things that we endure throughout the year because we don't eat in season, and the food is our medicine. And there's all these different types of produce, crops, and things that are available. But if we don't take advantage of the things that are in the season and prepare those things, as opposed to just eating everything all year, there's a huge importance to that in just eating what's in season, like not eating fresh tomatoes in the wintertime because tomatoes.
And that's going to be hard.
It'd be hard, but
it's going to be hard. We don't want to give that up,
Right.
We've become very spoiled.
Spoiled, absolutely.
At least the folks in this room, we've become very spoiled by the kind of food system that we've got, and we've got to learn. I think a lot of work when talking about food or climate or environmental justice is we want to tell folks not what they're going to be lacking. Like, well, stop eating your tomatoes in the winter because that's not good.
Right.
People don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. So we can tell people what they're going to get instead.
Yes.
You're going to get those beautiful squashes that were grown in the summertime that are now here, butternut squashes, things. You're going to have those wonderful beans that were grown during the summer and now are holding out over the winter. Just replace it with what we're going to gain instead of just what we're going to lose.
Yes. Thank you so much, Belinda. Speaking of eating what's in season, I visited Mr. Scott over the weekend, and Ladies, we had a great time, great conversation and everything, and we were talking, and the things in season, the things that were available, the things that I took home. I got some mustard greens. I got some onions. I got some butternut squash. I got some Fresno chilies, jalapenos, some sweet potatoes. As a matter of fact, the farmers market, the Farms to Grow, was in the documentary. That's the farmers market that I visited in Oakland, just in case anybody wants to go visit. It's an amazing place, amazing place. And just my experience there for that short amount of time, the visitors, the people that go to the farmers market, special people from all over the place, people doing all kinds of things are going to the farmers market. So it's not just a place to just go get some produce, but it's a community space. Right. It's a place for the community to come to. There was a guy, we bought some art. There was a guy, his name was Terry. I met this guy, he was selling art. Beautiful, beautiful drawings. This beautiful art. Oh my gosh. And, that was at the farmer's market, and there were some other people there that were looking to volunteer. They wanted to volunteer and help out at the farmer's market. So you go to the farmer's market. I encourage this to all of just to everyone. If you don't go to the farmer's market, or if you just go to the farmer's market and you just go get some produce and you leave, I recommend that you get to know the farmers. Not only go there and pick out stuff that you want, but take a moment before you walk away and introduce yourself. Ask what they got coming next week. You find out and learn so much by connecting to the farmers. They may have something in the back that's not out, and just because you said hello and introduced yourself, you know what? I got a little something. You gotta try it, right? That's the beauty about food and how it brings us all together. I really enjoy that, and I love that, and it makes me proud to be a chef in that way, to be able to produce food like that everyone is gonna love. And we were talking about the roles of the farmer and the chef, and how these two roles are so important. They're key in everything that we do, because without the farmer, what? You can't get the food. Without the chef is going to develop the recipes, and the chef is going to experiment and try new things for the people to enjoy, to inspire the people, so that people get inspired and they're excited to cook. Oh man, I saw this recipe in this cookbook. Those are chefs developing those recipes. So without the chef and without the farmer,
that's where the thrill comes in at, is that when the farmer grows it, and then they have someone that can take it and put value added to it, make it taste good. But what I'm so happy about today too is that, because at the farmer's market I would ask young people, have you tried fried green tomatoes? A lot of them say no, I laugh because that's a pat on my back, because, hey, I've ate fried green tomato all my life. Well, guess what? Saturday I asked a young, I forgot he was a chef, because sometimes you get to talking, you forget who you're talking to. And I asked him, that's my question to you, have you ever had fried green tomato? And as soon as I said it, I knew I made a mistake. Not only have you heard of it, but you know what to do with them, That's what I think too, is that, and I think that what he's doing too is because he's teaching cooking classes, or I used to say cooking class. That's
fine.
Right?
Cooking classes.
But he's teaching young people how to cook the food that I grow.
Yes, indeed.
And I tell you what, it really amazes me what the young people can do with what I grow. Now, when I come up, there was two things that you can do with food. You can fry it, you can boil it. And And I'm the kind of person like this is that if you fry it, I'll try it. But if you boil it, you spoil it. So my mother, like you said, and maybe that's why I'm here still today, but she made me eat vegetables. And you're right, is that you're a young kid, 5 years old, and you have everything that you need. You have a mother and father and grandparents that love you. And then me, I was the oldest. Then they started bringing these other people into my house without my permission, you know. But I was blessed with all these people because they all cared about me. And I thought I was in the Garden of Eden. Because like it says that during the wintertime, there was things that I could eat. But when summertime came, I think it was May, or I guess it was May, is when we were allowed to take off your shoes and go barefooted. You also can take off, we call them union, but those, you guys call them thermals.
Thermals, yeah.
You can take those off, you know, you're free to go. You know, you can even take off all your clothes and go skinny dipping, they call it, you know. But also, too, is that if you show you how the Creator works, too, is that I could go in a field that maybe had cotton in it, and I could find watermelons. You know, and I walked around every day. I had salt and pepper in my pocket. I was ready.
You were ready.
Hey,
You were ready.
sometimes I go back home, I didn't have to eat. I was full already. But that's what we had there, you know. And then, like I said, we would love to get back to that now, but I think we're at a stage now where in California we got the drought. So the intelligent people are gonna have to come together. You know, we need to solve this. We can solve it, but I think we have to take the money out of the equation.
Yes, indeed. Can I want to ask this question. Sorry, I mean, applause. I'm not. I want all of our listeners to know this. Can you just briefly tell us what are you growing on your farm currently?
Okay, like I said, this time of year we have what you call cold crops. You know, this crops can withstand the cold weather. You can talk about your mustards, your collards, your turnips, spinach, broccoli, cauliflowers, things like that, you know. And we get back to this thing, eating in season, because if you're a spiritual person, you read the scripture too, is that it says in season. Because I think it's made up like that because we have a unique body. And I think that you need to give your body a rest from certain things. Give it a chance to, you know, build up for the next one, you know. And that's why we eat in season. But we're so intelligent, we're so advanced that you can get tomatoes 365 days out of the year. You know. But, you know, like it says, that we psychologically. Another thing too is that, like I say organic, we call it natural. But you say organic, and that money comes in too. If I say organic, you need to pay me more money. You know, in reality it is, but also organically speaking is that anything that's organic is natural, and it may not be perfect, may have a blemish on it, but the nutritional value is there.
Yes.
But we are psychologically brainwashed to eat food that's pretty.
That's pretty.
It's like tomatoes. If it's not vine ripe, then guess what? That tomato was picked green. And anything that's green with tomato, it'll turn red. There's no flavor. But don't worry, because 2 hours over, we have spices. You can take these spices and you can make shoe leather taste good.
Shoe leather.
But
I'm gonna experiment with that one.
Hey, don't you try that.
Next special. Shoe surprise.
But that's why too is that I think it's important in what you're doing, you know, teaching young people how to cook. Also too is that Stanford is able the farmer to actually come into the classroom. We need to have agriculture or plant science in the education system.
Yes.
You need to know what is beneficial to you, because if you know what you're eating, you know, like you said, that you don't have to use chemicals to make you feel good.
Right.
You know, it's like me is that I was in it, and I guess maybe I'm over immune, but I was in the military. I was in the United States Navy. I was in there almost 5 years during the Vietnam War. Every time I turned around, they was giving me a shot. If they say we're going across the street, they give me a shot, cause
Just because you went across the street?
right. But I got out of service in 1966, and the only shots I've had is when they came out with this COVID. I took the COVID because, like it says, that I didn't understand it. But, you know, because I didn't want to affect my family, I took the COVID and the booster, you know. But these flu shots and stuff like that, I haven't had those shots. But then you ask me, is that, well, how do you have the health that you did? And it goes back to the food, you know. Even though I like fried food.
I think we all do. Anybody else like fried food? Thank you. You know, this event here, this is to bring awareness. This is definitely to bring some awareness to the things that are going on right here in front of us. And so, with that being said, I talk to everyone, the students, the faculty, staff, friends, everyone. What is your call to action? What will you do with all this information? It's a lot of information up here. You got to hear about some of the history from the documentary. Getting to talk to these experts up here. With that information, what will you do moving forward? And I want that to sit with you, and I want you to be able to. I want you to think about that, because we all have a role in this. Everyone, we all have a role. Even if you think that it's, you know, I'm just one person, I can't really do anything. Well, you can. Absolutely, you can today. You know, so I want us all to be mindful of our power as people, because there's power in people. Yes, indeed. Thank you all so much. I want to take a quick moment to see if we have any questions. If anyone would like to ask any questions in our audience, I want to give some time and some space for that. Yes, we have one right here.
I had a question regarding Department of Agriculture. I guess they've allotted $1 billion some dollars or whatever. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that they did that before, and the money wasn't distributed, from what I understand.
I think you touched on that in the documentary too, right? When
You see that? And you're right, that's a good question, because first of all is that as farmers, we need an advocate. That's why we got Farm to Grow, and then now we got Diane with Stanford too, is that money comes out there, and they said it's supposed to come out, you know, to serve people. But when it get down to me, it's too late. It come to me, I have 2 days to apply for it. So we need someone to be an advocate for us, also to be aware of this thing and make sure that the money gets where it's supposed to get. Now, I'm for this here. Not only do I love diversity, but I love equity.
no doubt.
If we have equity, we wouldn't have to have go through the things that we have. We not to have handouts to people. Because if equity was applied across the board, then this country would be a better place.
Yes,
And I tell you what, I kind of fantasize now too. I had time to think about it. Is that looking back, what would America look like, or the United States look like, had we had equity?
Wow.
Now, as you know, I shouldn't say this, but I will. Without slaves, there'd be no slavery. Without slavery, there'd be no cotton. Without cotton, there'd be no industrial revolution. Without the industrial revolution, the United States would be just another third world European colony. When they emancipated my ancestor, the industrial revolution was in its swing. We should have been allowed to participate in it, but we wasn't. They preferred to bring people into this country who didn't speak the language to give them the job to enjoy the Industrial Revolution. We were denied that. So you look back is that we're trying to circle back to kind of make some kind of adjustment. We have to. Because we're on the break right now is that we had one civil war. We also had got a division going now is that, you know, those who want to be fair and those who don't want to be fair. Where does it end? You know? So, and I think too is that food is going to probably be the panacea. What Stanford is doing too is that, like I said, the name Stanford means something.
Yes,
You know?
indeed.
And just like it says that young people who are in Stanford too is that you says that you actually can participate in agriculture. Because with your knowledge, you can do some things for me is that, hey, I got a weed out there, they call it a bindweed or morning glory. We're having a terrific fight. Some of you guys can take it over as a pest project and you can tell me how do I eradicate this thing
Right.
organically and not mess up the soil. You can do that.
Yeah.
You've already saved me some trips from walking up and down my field trying to talk to every plant to see how they do it and see if they're not affected. You got them little things, you know, little things that they fly out there? That they doing in water, they water doing them.
Right.
Well,
Yeah, the
I got to
drones.
have a little group to come out and they can fly over.
Uh-huh.
And that thing can send me back data. They can tell me, Mr. Scott, over in this corner here is that you have an infestation. Maybe it's not getting water, or maybe it's infected by insects. You tell me that, then I can go there and I can treat that area, and they save me money from, you know, being an overkill by spraying out the whole thing.
Right.
Young people can do that. You better do it because, like it says, that those bindweeds, I can't fight them. I'm gonna leave them for you.
Personally, everyone who has taken one of my culinary classes, if there are any of my students in here, they all know that I invite everyone to the farm. I tell everyone to go to the farm. So for those of you who don't know, I'm talking about the Stanford farm. We have a farm here on the campus. And everyone who takes my class, I tell them to go to the farm. Go talk to the farmers at the farm. Go harvest some produce. See where the food comes from. Will and Allison, yes, our Stanford farmers, yes, Will and Allison. I see them every week. They are amazing. Is not even the word. They are just magical people. They're blessings. They're always happy. They're happy to get visitors all the time. So I encourage people, go visit the farm as much as you can.
Can I speak a little bit to what this gentleman said too?
Sorry. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
So the Recovery Act, I think the Recovery Act, I think, is what you were referring to. There was funds. The Recovery Act was approved, but then there was funds that were, and I am no expert in USDA grants by whatsoever. But the Recovery Act, there was funds earmarked, but got held up in litigation. The Inflation Act that has this bill called the Climate Smart Solutions, which I was referred to earlier, that funding has been released. So the USDA, under the Natural Conservation Resource Service, has outlined that and is working throughout the country to find small, diverse farms. And that was one of the reasons why I ran after Vilsack, because I want them to feel like this is finally getting to the farm level, right, of diverse farms, not just big, factory farms. And then just Stanford, Stanford does have a lot of influence, right, but it also has a lot of variety of people that are super interested in this. Our educators, our financial management services team of the university, R&DE, and all our culinary team, our operations teams, our diversity team, our sustainability team. We got a lot of eyes on this. So I hope that shed a little bit more light. That's why we were encouraged with that Climate Smart Solutions funding got released. And then we had a follow-up call with one of the chief of staffs of the Natural Resource Conservation Center, just to breathe in some confidence that large institution buyers want to get to these farmers, but we can't unless they can get until they're ready, you know, and they can't be ready until the funding's in place. So, anyway, more questions maybe?
Yeah, thank you, Diane. Any other questions? Do we have any other ones this evening?
Way back.
I have one back here in the back. Do we have any additional microphones, or do we?
I can also just yell.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna ask, what advice do you have for young farmers or young chefs, young advocates, people who are going into this field? What advice do you have for us, and how do we best advocate for others as well as for ourselves in this field that doesn't get enough recognition?
Okay, one thing that the African American farmers are doing too is that, like I said, it's our mission, is that we're working with young people to teach them how to farm. We're working currently with 2 charter schools, you know, they have about 15 young people coming to my farm. You know, we train them in the idea of farming. We also have a demonstration site, it's about 16 to 18 acres, that we have farmers out there, and they have about a 1 acre plot. And we take them through the whole process, you know, how to grow it, how to prepare the land, you know, from seeding to irrigating to cultivating to watering. And then at the end, you know, we have that the marketing part of it, and that's where Stanford comes in. That is that when you grow stuff, you need to have a home for it. Because I had a horror story because I had 5 acres when I got the demonstration on. I grew some red onions. And I guess it was beginning of luck. They were some of the prettiest onions I was think in the world. Nice purple color to them. There was no sunburn on them, you know. And I don't eat onions. Didn't eat onions then. I ended up eating a lot of onions because I grew it. I did well on it, but I didn't have a market for it. See, and that's why I like to say working with Diane and with Farm to Grow. Is that part of the equation gonna be solved for me? Because as you know, a farmer should do what he do best. He need to farm.
Right.
You know, so we're working on that to come to that fruition. You know, so and we have a lot of people, a lot of young people too, as I said. We're also working with a high school now that we have kids that's in there in school and they're bored. And that's why they get in trouble. If you're bored, you know, you're gonna be getting in trouble. So we're trying to work with work with the Black Student Union. We're gonna be bringing them out to the farm too. Matter of fact, we'll start them on their campus, you know, with their Victory Gardens.
That's great.
Then we bring them out there too, and then it's gonna be incumbent upon the African American farmers that we need to get a bigger site because there are other entities that wants to learn how to farm. They want to go back to it because for some reason, when you talk about food, it's kind of romanticized. You know.
Yeah.
That's why I get excited when these young chefs. It's like, what was that squash? Butternut squash?
Butternut squash.
You know, squash, all you do is squash, you know, you bake it, or you might saute it, and that's it. But this young chef in San Francisco, he made soup out of it. Can you imagine that?
I can imagine that. Absolutely. I made butternut squash soup myself on a number of occasions.
Yeah,
Would anyone else like to touch on that also?
You know, it's really challenging these days to become an independent farmer, just one person. I would advise cooperative or collective. Try not to do it alone unless your family left you some land, left you tractors, barns, and processing units, everything you need to succeed. But it's always going to be a challenge. You know, the land is expensive, the inputs are expensive. If you have a market, that's great. But it's still, you got to do the marketing, you know, you got to do all the, you know, getting ready for next season and the storage and stuff. So, you know, if you really want to be a farmer, get some friends, you know, collectivize it. You all go together. And I think that is also one of the most sustainable ways. Because one of the success factors that that contributed to black farmers being on their land for years and years is that they had a community, right? There was several black farmers, right? But you going out there and you're solo, it's just, it's not a good success recipe. So I would just add that.
You guys have
Thank you.
two here, setting up tours too, to the farm.
Oh, the agritourism?
Yeah.
Yes, the tourism, yeah, visit farms. Here, Mrs. Scott.
You know, I'll be here all night. No, but like I said, what we like to set up too is that we'd like to get into this agritourism business too. You know, is that I think that people who live in the cities, they need to make that connection. You need to come out and see who I am. You know, ask me how I'm doing and see what I'm doing. You know, because that way too is, and a lot of times without diversity, you bring some ideas to me because in California, we're blessed that we can grow something 365 days out of the year.
Yeah.
So, you know, we shouldn't have to worry about food. And that's the thing about it too, is that I think too is that, and maybe I get in trouble with this too, but is that I think that you should consume the food that's in your environment. Because I can tell you this, is that food that is shipped into us, you know, anything that comes to your body that's foreign to it is cancer. Your body can't react to it. It's like eating in season.
Right.
You set your body up so that, you know, it functions better
Right.
when food can come in and the body takes what it needs of it and passes the rest on. You know, and if you eat healthy, you're gonna be healthy. You know, and then hopefully you act healthy.
Thank you for that. Much appreciated. As much as I want to keep this conversation going, and I'm having a lot of fun up here talking to our panelists, we have to wrap things up. So if there aren't any other questions, I want to say a big thank you to all of you.
We have one more question.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I have a question for her. You talked about possibly getting farms ready, black farms ready to do business with in the main.
Yeah.
In the big, it seemed like a bigger manufacturing place. Is there someone to talk to about possibly helping getting the farm ready to do that?
Yeah, so I can speak to that.
Miss one.
My friend Elaine here. So
You're
she's
asking the
with
right
Farms to
question.
Grow, and Farms to Grow is in a sense like an aggregator, and there are many things, educators, and they work with a lot of community farmers, but they're also aggregators of diverse farms and black farms, and then that we've set up a distribution, Stanford's distribution arm. You know, we have, you know, many farmers go into that distribution hub, and then that food comes to us, because we have lots of requirements that need to be met to bring food to the campus, and there's a lot of requirements that need to get onto a wholesale truck. But it's small farmers and mid-sized farms, and of course large farms too. So that the model is set up, so once a farmer's ready, has wholesale requirements met, they are approved to, they get moved forward onto that distribution supply chain, which is right in Hayward, I think, or Union City. And then it comes, you know, we have a really good tracking system, and it tracks to Stanford or any place else that truck's going, right? And that's K-12s, college and universities, restaurants, you know.
Definitely.
Yeah, Elaine is the person that you want to talk to, because first of all too is that, and that's why I'm overjoyed the fact that Stanford is doing it, because Stanford is a known college. So that means that the standards that they have is up there.
Definitely.
So if they can bring up farmers like me and Don down to those standards, then we are qualified to serve anybody.
Okay.
You know, and I like that. I want you to, you tell me, you know, what is not only the rules, but what is the standard?
Right.
and I can get to those standards, you know, and if, once I get to those standards, then, you know, like I said, that I'm ready. But like I said, we have people like Elaine and Gail. They're the ones that's gonna be doing that for us. And then Diane comes, you know, and she put the piece to that. So like I said, if I could, and you guys wouldn't laugh, I'd probably get up and shout at this moment. But anyway, you know. But I like to ask
So
questions
pieces
to
to the puzzle.
some of the students out there. What are some of the majors that you guys are in?
What are some of the things being studied? I know from the students that I talk to, because we always do this when after a class we sit down together and we have a family meal. And so one of the things that we do is we talk about what your majors are, what you're studying. I hear a lot of computer science. I got any computer science in the building? What else? I hear a lot of psychology. Psychology. I see one psychology in the back.
Any anthropologists?
Anthropologists. Agriculture.
Community health.
Community. I'm sorry. What was it?
Community health.
Community health. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. So we have some youngsters in here that are on the road to carrying on that tradition and to getting more involved. So we definitely appreciate that. And your role is so important. So important. We're gonna try this again. We're gonna try this again to wrap this up. Thank you guys so much. Before. Yes, indeed. I have to give some acknowledgments really quick before we get off the stage here. I want to thank not only the farmers that are here today, but I want to just thank all of the black farmers and all the farmers of color from generations and generations, and our ancestors and the people who really paved the way for us all to be here at this time. So we give thanks to you all. Elaine Smith, your role is so important. I want to talk about her role. She is the executive director of Farms to Grow and this film's producer as well. The rest of the team from Farms to Grow, the Dover School of Sustainability, Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Everyone from the SFI leadership who really wanted to be here that couldn't be here this evening. Dr. Everett, of course, Eric Montel, Sophie Egan, Elizabeth Henson, who is in the background making things happen. There she is back there. Absolutely. AV SFI interns, SFI graduate fellow Charlie Hoffs, and the rest of our terrific events support. And you seem like you wanted to say something. Oh, okay. All right.
Good, you're moderator.
I felt the energy. You were kind of like, I want to talk. All right.
I just want to acknowledge all the black farmers in the house. Would y'all mind standing up?
Yes, sir.
See y'all. California black farmers.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So thank you guys all so much. Lastly, give a round of applause to yourselves. You guys have been fantastic. Yes, and
a round of applause for Terry.
Thank you. Listen, I'm really just honored to be in this place, to be at this event and doing this. Like I said in the beginning, it hits home for me. And watching the film, I was thinking about my grandmother. I was thinking about my mom. I'm thinking about all these significant people in my life that have fed me over the years, and the food, and just seeing collard greens brings back memories to me of cleaning the collard greens and then talking about looking over your shoulder, making sure you're doing it right. Those are the things that were going on at home for me during it was like during the week. It could be just during the week. These are the foods that I grew up on. So I definitely appreciate the opportunity, and I'm just happy to be in this position. So thank you. Yeah. We have some refreshments in the back. I'm not sure if there's any more snacks left, but there's some snacks in the back, refreshments. Please help yourselves to some food. And it's dinner time, so yeah, definitely get some food.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Nice.
I'm sorry.
Hey, you know what? It's your dad's phone, so I'm chilling.
You know what?
Yeah, you
Got
broke
nothing
it
to do
on
with
me.
me.
Yeah, exactly. No, what?
Okay.